Hello and welcome to the Foundation Center sponsored webinar powered by Pro Bono, presented by the Taproot Foundation. Excuse me. My name is Caroline Herbert. I'm the manager of multimedia training for the Foundation Center. So luckily for you, I'm not the presenter since I seem to have a little frog in my throat. It's my job today to do the welcome, the introduction, and essentially be your moderator through the presentation. So in my role as giving you an introduction, I wanted to go over some housekeeping notes if you have never been on a webinar with us before. First of all, really everything you need to know is on the screen in front of you. There is one handout available to download up in the top right corner of your screen, the little box that says Handouts to Download. It is just an outline of the slide presentation we're about to do. And all you need to do is highlight the document and click on the Download Files box. A separate window will open up in your browser, and you'll have the option to save or open the document. And if you're like me, the trick is always just remembering where you saved it. All right, so that is the handout, and right below your handout box is your question and answer panel, and I've already typed in some welcoming remarks. But this is really for you to communicate with us. Down the bottom left corner of your screen is an open text box where you can type in questions, comments, and then we can see them. So it is a moderated Q&A. It's not an open chat. So when you type something in, initially I'm the only one that's going to be able to see it. And then at the end of the presentation, we're going to do an open, the question and answer, where we'll be answering your questions verbally. So unless you're asking me something very technical, specific, I'm not going to be typing in answers to you. You'll hear the Q&A at the end of the presentation. So that's pretty much it in terms of the housekeeping remarks. Before I turn it over to our presenter for today, we wanted to ask you one initial question about your experience. I'm going to attempt to bring this up to take up your screen eventually. Let me try and make it bigger. Here we go. Getting there. All right, so we're asking you how much experience do you have with pro bono services, use of pro bono, either as a nonprofit looking for pro bono assistance, or maybe you have been a volunteer on a pro bono project, whatever, however you want to interpret the question, wondering what kind of experience you have. And I see we're going to have all over the place, divided up into nice little groups here. About almost 14% of you have a lot of experience. That's great. And then I see about another 35% seems to be the highest category at this point. A third of you have no experience. A quarter of you have very little. So really all over the place, which is interesting to see. But it looks like a lot of you have at least very little experience, or about 60% have very little, some, or a great deal. All right, well, thank you for answering our first poll. We're going to have a couple more of those as we go along. I'm going to turn things over to our presenter from Taproot Foundation. Rob Acton is the Executive Director for Taproot Foundation in New York City. Rob has more than 20 years experience leading nonprofits, working in direct service organizations and engaging in policy efforts to support social justice in Brooklyn, Harlem, Chicago, and Jackson, Michigan. Prior to joining Taproot, Rob served for 7 years as Executive Director of Cabrini Green Legal Aid, overseeing the delivery of free legal representation to more than 22,000 low-income clients. In his current role as leader of Taproot's New York office, Rob is spearheading an ambitious agenda to build a thriving pro bono marketplace through strengthening and growing critical partnerships, services, and social impact in New York City. So I'm going to be quiet for now and turn things over to Rob.
Thanks, Carolyn. It's a pleasure to be here. And if I can feel the collective disappointment on those on the call, I understand. I'm actually stepping in for my colleague, the Executive Director of our office in San Francisco, Joel Bashevkin, who is a pro bono leader on the West Coast and Unfortunately, he had a personal situation come up and wasn't able to do the call, but I'm very pleased to play back up to Joel today. And really thank each one of you for being with us for the next 60 minutes or so, and we'll trust that this is a valuable time and really hope that it provides some tools and knowledge and resources to strengthen mission achievement at your nonprofit organization. So my basic story is I'm a lawyer, and 10 years ago I was recruited to lead a legal aid organization in Chicago, as Carolyn mentioned, Cabrini Green Legal Aid. The day I stepped foot into the organization, it had 8 full-time staff, a board of 10, all lawyers, and I, as a lawyer myself, knew nothing about HR, strategy, finance, marketing, IT, but the day that I stepped foot in the organization, I was also suddenly in charge of each one of those things. And so I realized early on that this lawyer had to figure out ways to get resources into the organization so we would have a level of marketing expertise and HR expertise and technology that we didn't have in place originally. And so Pro Bono proved to be an incredible solution for Cabrini Green Legal Aid. And in fact, during my time, we not only used 3 Taproot service grants, but in fact, 39% of our budget the year I left was coming in through Pro Bono resources. Everything from low legal representation of low-income clients to events, graphic design, management, photography, voiceover work, room design, and a building project we did used a huge amount of Pro Bono, a visual identity and brand strategy. Our website was built Pro Bono. And so I became a true believer in the power of connecting business professionals to nonprofit organizations to help us achieve social good. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today. But obviously, Cabrini Green is not the only group doing Pro Bono. In fact, let me give you an idea of what DonorsChoose.org, their Pro Bono footprint. DonorsChoose is an organization you may be familiar with. They invented a way for public school teachers to make their unique needs known directly to donors online. And these donors then get to choose exactly which classrooms, people, and projects they want to support. DonorsChoose was literally founded on Pro Bono. They paid only $2,000 for the website platform on which they built this incredibly successful and important organization. And you can see on the left some examples of the real-world Pro Bono services they have received over the years. At this point, they now budget for Pro Bono to be in the same way, to be in their budget in the same way they do fundraising, and they estimate that 20% of their annual budget comes in terms of free services. So their model and use of Pro Bono now allows them to serve classrooms in literally half of the schools across the country. Their favorite story to tell is about one of their board members, Stephen Colbert, who many of you may watch on an evening basis on television. DonorsChoose wanted an app to built specifically for them to make it even easier for potential donors to give. But while it was a great idea, they lacked the resources it would pay to come up with that sort of cutting-edge technology. So Stephen volunteered to create and give away personally a unique trophy to the web developer or data cruncher who came up with the best app, and the next thing you know, they had a customized app built for the cost of a comical trophy. That's creativity in Pro Bono. Taproot Foundation is core to our mission. In fact, the centerpiece of our mission is leading, mobilizing, and engaging business professionals in pro bono service that drives social change. Our vision is that Pro Bono will be an accessible, reliable, transparent resource across the country, a multi-billion-dollar marketplace where nonprofits can tap into to get the business and infrastructure solutions that they need. We've been learning and practicing the art of Pro Bono for over a decade. We manage Pro Bono engagements across the country, and as you can see on this slide, we've delivered over 2,000 Pro Bono projects and over 1 million hours of Pro Bono services, which is valued at roughly now, this slide's a little old, $116 million in value and counting. In that time, we've learned a lot about what it takes to do Pro Bono right, and that's what we hope to share with you today. So our agenda, what we'd like to cover. First, we want to just spend a few minutes on what is pro bono, to take a moment to make sure we're all talking the same language. And then we'll look at how it works. We'll learn a little bit about the life cycle of a pro bono project and what that process entails. And then we'll spend a good amount of time on learning the resources that are available to help you. Our goal is that every nonprofit knows how to use pro bono independently and sustainably. And so we've developed a good number of online resources free of charge to nonprofits, and that make sure that that happens. And I'll walk you through some of those resources today to make sure you know what else is out there. And then finally, as Carolyn mentioned, we'll leave time for Q&A at the end. So if at any point you have questions, feel free to use the function that we have in front of us on the computer. And then at the end, Carolyn will help us walk through that part of the presentation. So diving in, what is pro bono? Well, this is a good definition. Pro bono is services donated by, I would add the word qualified professionals to organizations working for the public good. Going back to the DonorsChoose example, when a strategy team came in from American Express to conducting marketing analysis, that was pro bono. In the Cabrini Green example, when an architect committed to build the architecture for a new building project for Cabrini Green Legal Aid, that was pro bono. These services can run across literally all sectors, and the most common being in places like strategy, marketing, HR, IT, and legal. When Taproot started down this road 12 years ago, pro bono was synonymous with the legal profession. That is the one thing as a lawyer I can say we have going for ourselves, that we're really good at pro bono. We get a lot of knocks for everything else, I realize. But too often in the nonprofit sector, especially outside of legal pro bono, this was sort of viewed as the gift that keeps on taking. I remember a really difficult day at Cabrini Green Legal Aid early on when one of my board members said, you know, we'd like to send a team of 50 lawyers over to Cabrini. We want them to do an in-person client project. It has to be on this particular day in these 3 hours because that's our day of giving, and we want each of those projects to go to completion. You know, and that was quickly falling into the category of a gift that would keep on taking, not giving. So our mission at Taproot is to really turn pro bono into this reliable, powerful solution for nonprofits to tap into. But to say it's powerful is not to say it's easy. Many of you have probably tried a pro bono engagement. Some of you have, well, in fact, we know 60% of you have not or have done very little, and 40% of you have tried some. So what we've tried to do is take the learnings of our 2,100 projects, our million plus hours of pro bono service, and figure out what are the levers to unlock a truly successful pro bono engagement, and how can a nonprofit do this themselves. So we want to jump into another poll here, and I think Carolyn's going to help us pull this up. Voila. The question is, which of these is or will be, in your mind, the biggest challenge to integrating pro bono into your organization? Will the greatest challenge be determining the top needs, selecting and detailing a clear scope of work, access to the talent that it takes to do that project? Will it be managing the volunteers on the project, or integrating pro bono across your organization? Take a moment to respond to that poll, and that will drive a little bit how we spend the remainder of our time. All right, this is fun. It's like watching a racehorse, or a horse race. Who's going to make it to the photo finish? All right, it looks like we have a clear majority is saying that the greatest challenge is access to pro bono talent. It looks like 55% or so, a significant majority are saying access to pro bono talent is challenge number one. And next in line at 22% is integrating pro bono into your organization, the resource raising and operating plan. And then behind that, 13% saying selecting and detailing a clear scope of work. And then managing is viewed as sort of a more incidental challenge at 8%. All right, great. Well, that fits in well with what we hope to cover today. So thanks for taking the time to take our poll. So take a look. Again, we said Pro Bono is a powerful tool that can help you achieve your mission. As you take a look here, is there anything on this list that you know today you need in your organization? So we're going to ask you again to take this poll and respond to where you see your functional area of greatest need in your organization today. You can see the options: board communications, finance, fundraising, HR, legal, programs, facilities, strategy, and technology. Where is your greatest area of need, functional area of need for building your infrastructure today? I'll say each one of these areas have pro bono solutions, so we're really curious to know sort of where you see the greatest area of need. All right. Shocking that fundraising is coming out first at 51%. And then looks like next in line is communications, so marketing and communications at about 12%, followed by programs, well, it was at 11%. And then we've got some responses with technology and strategy as well. All right, great. That's really helpful. Thanks for taking that poll as well. So what is Powered by Pro Bono? Powered by Pro Bono is the title of a new book recently published by Taproot Foundation, published by Jossie Bass last fall. And we really think it's a new way of thinking about resource generation for your organization. We've found, like we said at DonorsChoose, that many of the highest performing nonprofits in the country are powered by Pro Bono. They generate as much as 20% of their budget in Pro Bono resources. They make Pro Bono a part of their organizational DNA, and they're always asking, what can we do Pro Bono, whenever they're facing a new opportunity or challenge. At Taproot, we practice what we preach. Roughly 25% of our budget is Pro Bono each year. We actually just launched a new website that we'll demonstrate today, loaded with new tools and resources for nonprofits who want to know more about Pro Bono, and most of that website was built, you guessed it, Pro Bono. So we're big believers. We practice what we preach, and we hope that in the same way that DonorsChoose or Cabrini Green Legal Aid or Taproot Foundation have found this to be a viable solution, we hope you will as well. So let's dig in. Let's get the idea of behind Pro Bono and think about how it works. How does Pro Bono actually work? We think about Pro Bono as a four-stage process: scoping, securing, managing, and scaling Pro Bono. So a number of you indicated in the early poll that scoping you viewed as a core challenge. Scoping is the process of clearly defining the needs and expectations for a project in a way that can be understood by the people who will be working on it for you. In some ways, it's the difference of saying, dear marketing professional, we have lots of marketing challenges. Please come and fix them. Not many marketing professionals will want to raise their hand for that opportunity. But if you say, dear marketing professional, we have a need to expose our services in our community to parents so that more children will end up applying for our charter school program, and we want to build a trifold brochure that we can use to get the word out to parents to drive our admissions rates. That's a very different scope of work that a marketing professional is much more likely to raise their hand and say, I know exactly how to do that. So scoping a project is a real core first step to Pro Bono. It's about prioritizing your needs and making sure you're communicating projects and selecting projects that are a good fit for Pro Bono engagements. Once you have that project scoped, you have a scope of work, you have to secure the resources. That stage is about finding qualified professionals who are right for your Pro Bono project and a good fit for your organization. There's two pieces there, that they have the right skills to deliver that scope of work, but they're also a good fit for your organization, a good fit for your culture, an identification and an enthusiasm about your mission. Somebody said people do what they love, and so you're looking for Pro Bono consultants who both love to do the thing that they do in their real life, but also who kind of fall in love with your organization, because that's going to really drive success on the engagement. And then third, once you've scoped the work and you've found the resources, the Pro Bono professionals to get that work done, you're not done, because you really have to invest heavily in managing that pro bono engagement to an effective completion. It's all about being a good client and managing the pro bono team to ensure high impact results. There are some key things to think about when managing pro bono that are different from managing a typical project being done by your staff. And so we're going to spend a few minutes on that in this hour today as well. And then finally, scaling pro bono. After you've gotten the hang of it, you kind of know what you're doing. It's about growing your impact by scaling the use of pro bono across your organization. When Taproot celebrated our 10th anniversary about a year and a half ago, we actually decided rather than throw a big gala, we'd just write a book. And so we put together this book, Powered by Pro Bono, that really captures everything that we have to say about how to scope, secure, manage, and scale pro bono independently and sustainably. It's a how-to guide for nonprofit organizations to do pro bono on their own. And the workbook really does capture our decade of learning about pro bono. It contains not just theories, but the exercises, the worksheets, the tools that it takes to manage pro bono for your organization. Basically, everything we discussed today is laid out in our book with lots more detail, and you should consider it as a resource for you moving forward. I want to say this is not a revenue driver for Taproot. Please don't consider this the hard sell. I think we make about 10 cents per copy. We just want you to know that the resource is out there, and you can find it on Amazon for about $20 is my understanding. So now we're going to take a look at this process, and we want to focus most of the rest of our time on demonstrating the powerful new online tools that can help you scope projects and secure the resources you need to get pro bono on your own. This is a new entry into the market. It's the first time these kinds of resources have been available to the sector, and we're thrilled that you've come online to learn about them, and we hope that you'll spread them far and wide. Again, these are no-cost solutions. There's absolutely no charge. And unlike a lot of the online tools I've used over my day, you kind of get sucked in. You need to take this assessment, and then you realize there's a premium plan that you need to pay for. Not the case here. All of the tools are available for you and your use on an ongoing basis. So let's move on. First of all, we want to talk about scaling pro bono. We're going to jump to, I need to jump to this page.
You have your website open, so I'm looking at your homepage, taprootfoundation.org.
All right, beautiful. Well, we're going to plow on from here. So sorry about that. Computer technology glitch right in. We need pro bono technology. All right, so this is Taproot's homepage, and it's taprootfoundation.org. Our website is essentially designed to be now a one-stop shop for the premier resources and tools on pro bono. And it's really useful for anyone interested in pro bono, including individuals who want to volunteer their services and companies who want to engage their employers in pro bono. Just very quick tour. You can see it at the top where the tweet logo is. It gives folks a chance to become advocates by selecting their profession and sending out a tweet that's sort of an advocacy campaign to drive pro bono. And then as you scroll down, you'll see a section Pro Bono Marketplace, which is where we'll spend some time today. But it also gives business professionals to join over 15,000 who are doing pro bono through Taproot's service grant program, or for companies to build their own pro bono program through an advisory services practice where we help executives and employees create pro bono programs on their own. But since we're nonprofits and we're looking for pro bono and how to do pro bono, let's go to the Get Pro Bono link at the top of the page. And if you pull that, just click on Get Pro Bono. You should be on a page that says Get Pro Bono. Pro Bono helps you make it matter. On this page, you can read more about case studies about nonprofits who are powered by pro bono, learn about getting a service grant program from Taproot, or exploring do-it-yourself pro bono. We're here to learn today, though, about how to be powered by pro bono. So let's go straight to the Be Powered by Pro Bono page by clicking on the sidebar over on the left. You should see a left-hand link, Be Powered by Pro Bono. If you click on that, and you should see a video, animated video pop up. That's how you'll know you're on the right screen. So the process for pro bono is broken out on the sidebar as the topics we covered earlier: scoping, securing, managing, and scaling pro bono. We'll touch briefly on each one today. So let's start with scale. You click on scale.
Sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing.
Okay, if you can go back and just click on scale.
Scale. Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Excellent. All right, so you'll see there are 4 stages to becoming powered by pro bono. Pro bono is a culture shift for many organizations. It's a new way of doing things at your organization. It's a new way of resource raising. So oftentimes you have to build that new organizational muscle gradually, and then once it's strong, you expand across your organization. So a level 1 organization is really a beginner. You're just getting to know pro bono. In fact, 60% of the organizations on the call today, you indicated you were beginner pro bono organizations. You've introduced some key staff to the idea, or you need to, by starting with one project. And once you get that one project under your belt, you're ready for the next level. When you've completed a successful pro bono project, you move to practicing pro bono. And in this stage, you're really practicing and honing skills. You're focusing on getting strong in one functional area, let's say marketing or HR. So you're ready for the next level, and when you're ready for the next level, you've successfully completed 3 or so projects in this area, and then you move to organization-wide adoption. At this stage, you're essentially beginning to do pro bono across functional areas, some in marketing, some in HR, some in strategy, for example. And then sort of the state of nirvana in Taproot land is powered by pro bono. In this stage, pro bono is happening across functional areas. When a capacity building challenge or infrastructure challenge comes up, your whole staff at this stage sort of reflexively looks to solve the problem through pro bono resources. Pro bono is a core component of your strategic plan at this stage, and your board and staff know that this is just how you operate, and that you're skilled in scoping, securing, and managing pro bono. So that's sort of the end state, but you don't start at the end state, you start at the beginning stage or the early on stage. So now we want to move on and get started with scoping a pro bono project. On the left, again, you should see under Be Powered by Pro Bono. If you click on Scope, this will take us to scoping pro bono projects. All right, scoping again is about how large a project is and how well defined it is. You need to be very clear about the scope of work so you can set expectations and be aligned with the pro bono volunteer you're working with. We've helped actually at Taproot by capturing over 100 common pro bono projects, and their scope is, those template scopes are in our Project Finder tool. So I want to take a closer look at the Project Finder. Really, there's anything. Let's scroll down and filter by department. So let's start by saying we have an HR challenge, and if you can just push in HR, Leadership Development, Strategic HR, Carolyn.
Got it.
And then let's say, okay, so now you've got, as you look at browsing all projects, you'll see the range of projects that fit within HR, and let's scroll down and choose Performance Management System. Not uncommonly, a nonprofit either has no performance management system or a rudimentary performance management system, one that was built when they were a much smaller organization, or sometimes it's too complex. But let's in this case say we recognize we just need a stronger employee performance management system. You'll see in a blue box, this is a summary of this project, but if you click on More under View, you'll pull up a whole essentially scope of work. In this screen, it will really give you a sense of how you walk through that project. It gives you the project impact in the blue box. What will a performance management system do for you and your organization? The top is the deliverable. It gives you a strong statement around what it is exactly that engagement will be, what you will end up with, what the pro bono consultants will deliver. Talks about management risks as you scroll down. And then you'll get to a section that says secure this project from another provider. Well, first actually says secure this project from Taproot Foundation. It turns out this happens to be a project that Taproot offers, and so one option if you're in one of our 5 cities is to apply to Taproot. But we're today focused on how you do pro bono on your own. So you can secure this project from another provider. I want to start by thinking about how you can tap into your individual network to secure this engagement on your own. So you'll see at the screen, near the bottom of the screen, secure this project from individuals. This is a tool that's going to let me look in my own LinkedIn network to see who I know that is qualified to do this project. The list of skills needed for the project are listed below, but essentially you'll plug in your own zip code. Now, this is going to be much more tricky because that is a big win. Okay, so to remind us where we are, we're looking for a performance management system. We know we need HR help to do this, and we're going to search our own individual LinkedIn network. So I've plugged in 10036, and I'm going to select performance management, and I'm going to go looking for consultants. Now this is automatically populating my LinkedIn network. When you do this on your own, you'll put in your own information, and you won't have my password, so you can't use mine anymore, but you can use your own LinkedIn network to find people in that may be able to deliver this pro bono for you. So as I scroll down, let's just pause at the first 3 names here. Tej Shah, who is an associate at Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors. Truthfully, don't know too well, so I'm going to bypass. Melissa Meredith, interesting, Chief People Officer, Growth Catalyst. She's in HR. That could be a really strong resource for us. Robin Kindle, actually a dear friend of mine who I have brunch with and drinks with quite regularly, Business Performance Advisor at Insperity. Have never thought about Robin as a potential pro bono consultant for my organization. So let's click on Robin. I know Robin quite well. It'd be very easy to approach her and say, hey, you know, we're trying to build this performance management system. I'm looking at her skills and competencies, and sure enough, it looks like people have prior endorsed her for performance management, so that's good news. I'm looking at, I can read a bit about her summary. You know, she's got this joke here about her wishing she would have trademarked the Kindle name. Fits in well with the Taproot culture of playful professionalism. That could be a good fit. Learning about her background and experience. She's a performance advisor. Oh, look at this. Folks have actually endorsed her for performance management. I suddenly have a great lead to go into my network and ask Robin if she or her company or a colleague of hers might be willing to take on helping us build a performance management system for our organization. And by the way, I already have the project scoped because we've got the scope of work in front of us on the screen here. So a great resource for tapping into your individual network. So you may say, well, I don't do LinkedIn, or I don't have a huge network. The other opportunity is to secure the project from another provider. So instead of plugging into an individual, let's look at other providers who might be able to deliver this pro bono engagement. I'm in New York, so I'm going to plug in New York. And this is now tapping into a pool of how many organizations? 548 organizations who have positioned themselves publicly as pro bono providers. This is a great new tool and a great new resource for you in your organization. So we've collected this database based on press releases, articles, et cetera, on companies who provide pro bono. It's a great place to start. And if they've done it before, if they've done pro bono before in these categories, they're likely to be interested in doing it again. So let's click on, I'm in New York. We're looking again for strategic HR. I'm going to go looking for providers who might be able to help us achieve this performance management system project. And you'll see, of course, Taproot's at the beginning because we are Taproot and we put ourselves at the beginning for some reason. But then we go alphabetical, and you can look through corporations, professional service firms, other intermediary organizations, professional schools. I'm just going to essentially start at the top here. Let's select Accenture. So if you click on Accenture, it will take you to a page which is essentially the page of the best information about what they do pro bono. where they've worked, what they've reported, latest news in the pro bono on their pro bono landscape. And so you try to assess if this might in fact be a good company to help you build a performance management system. We all know Accenture. We all know they're a fantastic management consulting company. Of course, they'd be a great place to go. But that doesn't mean you've found the right person to connect you to the people within Accenture who might be able to deliver this. So again, there's an online tool. This tool is now tapping into my LinkedIn network, or when you log in, your LinkedIn network, of folks who work at Accenture who essentially might be able to get you to the people you need to get this project pro bono. Deanna Finley, it just so happened, I used to attend church with her in Chicago. I know Deanna very well. She served on an advisory board of my organization, and she's a marketing communications person at Accenture. It'd be a great first place for me to call and say, Deanna, it turns out Accenture does pro bono in HR. Can you help me through the landscape? Can you champion my pitch to secure resources on my own? I don't know Marco Crema. You can see he's a second-tier connection, as is Wayne and Nick. So I don't know these folks. But, you know, as I look at their bio, I see Nick is a global alliance leader at Accenture. He's also founded a foundation. Seems pretty interesting. Good-looking guy. Let's click on him. And I am now going to find out who knows Nick in my LinkedIn network. So it turns out, well, look at that. Our president and founder at Taproot, Aaron Hurst, knows Nick, as does Elaine Chen. Elaine is somebody I've gotten to know. She's a pro bono consultant at Taproot. She's a high-energy, incredibly powerful leader, a BMW fellow. I would want to reach out to Elaine, send her a message and say, you know, it turns out you know Nick Hall, who works at Accenture. We're trying to get a performance management system. Can you help make the connection to Nick? And then Nick may be able to become an internal sort of guide and champion for us as we reach into that company. So this is a couple of mechanisms by which you can find providers of the pro bono that you need to deliver that scoped project. All right, so we've talked a lot now about scoping a project. We've talked about how to secure projects from both organizations and individuals. I want to spend just a few moments on managing pro bono. So we click on managing. You've got a project. You've identified the resource. What do we do next? Every pro bono project goes through 5 basic stages outlined here. As you click on each stage, you'll see that there's a description and tips for making the project go smoothly. And then sprinkled throughout here are some of our biggest tips. But I'm going to share just three or four high-level recommendations around how to manage an effective pro bono project. There's a lot of great information here. Frankly, a huge portion of the book has some of the best information. But here's 4 or 5 key tips. Number 1, be prepared to invest time. You have to track the time, and you need to spend time so that you can gauge return on investment. This is not a match and release. You have an ongoing time investment in making this succeed, so be prepared for that. But again, track it because you want to know what your return on investment for that pro bono engagement is. Second, and this is probably the most important principle for managing an effective pro bono engagement, act like a paying client. Act like a paying client. Act like you're paying the $60,000 in value that engagement will give you, even though in fact you're paying nothing. This is absolutely key. I think nonprofits, we're so used to being so thankful for every gift, for everything that comes through the door, that we can similarly extend that sort of gratitude at no cost to pro bono engagements, and frankly, it's a bad choice. Because you need to view this as a paid client, as a paying client, and you have to have high expectations. You need to check in regularly. You need to hold the pro bono team accountable to meet deadlines. You need to give and receive feedback. You have to, if you want to ensure success, frankly, the pro bono consultants need you to treat it that way, and for success, you need to treat it that way yourself. A third core to managing an effective pro bono project is to foster effective communications among your internal team. Keep them up to date, even if they aren't involved in day-to-day project management decisions. You need there to be strong communication throughout this engagement. Fourth, create the space for the consultant team to share all news, both good and bad. This is key. You need to hear what's going well from your consulting team, but you especially need to hear where the smoke is and where the fires have taken root. You need to be able to get that bad news in real time so that together you can respond to it and get back on track. And then fifth, celebrate before, during, and after the project. Remember that recognition is one of the key forms of payment that your consultant team is really going to receive from this engagement. And so celebrate the heck out of them throughout the process, but particularly at the close of a successful engagement. All right, and then one other resource before we end and do our Q&A time. And this, frankly, in my view, is probably the most potentially game-changing pro bono resource that's on this website. If you'll see under Get Pro Bono, we're going to talk about boards. So I want to leave you today with thinking about pro bono in your boards. If we click on that page. Boards are really the key to making pro bono happen. You don't need the board to get one pro bono project done, but you will need a board to become powered by pro bono and make pro bono a core part of your organization's strategy. So on the page here, you can see who you should be looking for to build what we call a pro bono committee. Folks who you can recruit to your board, or if you already have them, how to utilize them better, who can help you with the technology, HR, marketing, and strategy challenges you face. These board members can help you articulate pro bono needs. They can help you recruit talent. They can help build the literacy of your board on why that area is important. They can help you get pro bono scaled across your organization when you're ready. So it's about bringing in your board early and making them an important pro bono partner. You know, traditionally, and I have been both organizations I've led and organizations I've served on the board, you've had that moment where an organization realizes it's time to build a strategic plan. And they say, what we really need here is a strategy expert. Does anybody know anybody who knows anything about strategy, who we maybe can try to recruit for our board? And everybody looks at each other and wonders, well, you know, I think I had a guy in college once. We've all been in that conversation. Does anybody know anybody? This takes it out away from that traditional way we find HR, marketing, technology, strategy experts, and gives you, again, access to your LinkedIn network, but also, frankly, the LinkedIn network of everyone on your board and everybody in your organization to find candidates who fit the bill for the area of your needs. So we've been thinking about HR. Let's say, you know, we've tried this HR pro bono thing. The engagement went really well, but frankly, HR is a huge challenge for us as an organization. It's incredibly important for every nonprofit. We need an HR expert on our board. So I'm going to, again, plug in my zip code, and we're going to go looking to find candidates. Voila, my LinkedIn page has pulled up a number of suggested candidates, people who have substantial HR experience, people who have the years of experience in gravitas that may make them a good fit for our board. Now this tool, again, is free of charge. It was created in a partnership with LinkedIn and Taproot, where essentially you're tapping into a premium LinkedIn account to go looking for board members to fill one of these 4 functional expert roles. So it turns out I know Chan Su quite well. He actually was on the Taproot board. So Chan, I'm going to bypass, even though he would be a godsend for any organization, and please don't steal him. We love our Chan. But I'm looking down the list, and I see Lisa here. She looks great. I see Walter Reyes, MBA, a vice president of HR and talent management. He's in Greater New York City. Wow, I'm pretty interested. Turns out I also have 3 shared connections, although I don't, as the second badge here indicates, he's not a part of my LinkedIn network. So again, let's see. Well, it turns out I've got 3 folks in my network, including our program director at Taproot, who knows Walter, who has Walter in their LinkedIn network. Guess what I'm going to do next? Contact one of these 3 folks and say, tell me about Walter. Tell me about his experience. Would he be interested in Taproot? Would he be interested in our mission? Any chance you'd be willing to make an introduction? You can see this becomes a really powerful tool for finding folks who, again, have not already raised their hand and said, I want to be on your board, but it's a list of strong suspects and prospects for people who have the expertise you need the gap you're trying to fill, and the way to get to them, either people you already know or people who you know who have them in your network. So with that said, these are tools at your fingertips we hope you'll spend a lot of time with exploring and using, and hopefully we'll get wild success stories from those of you on the call. I'd love to get emails sent to me from folks on the call who've used some of these tools and found success. And at this point, Carolyn, I think we're going to go back to the presentation. And we're going to do one last-minute poll before we jump into our Q&A for the last 10 minutes or so. In that poll, which I think Carolyn's going to pull up, is where would you put yourself organizationally right now on the scale? Are you a beginner organization? Are you practicing pro bono? You've done one or two engagements. Are you organization-wide? Are you now doing this across functional areas you're using pro bono within the organization? Or more, is anybody even powered by pro bono? All right, well, this is enough to know that, again, we recognize we really are still at that beginning stage. And so these tools are great starter kits for you to do that first engagement, scope the right project, and start to secure the resources, or to do a second or third and really move down this continuum so you end up a powered by pro bono organization. All right, Carolyn, last slide. Few last thoughts. Use Taproot. I mean, read Powered by Pro Bono. That book has everything you could ever want to know about leveraging pro bono resources on your own. Use the online tools and resources. Join our conversation by friending up with us on LinkedIn. If you're in one of our 5 cities of New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco, or Washington, D.C., consider applying for a service grant. And then ask your funders about Powered by Pro Bono. This is actually just the surface of what we offer with Powered by Pro Bono. We actually are working with cohorts of nonprofits who foundations are bringing us in to sort of sponsor a suite of training sessions to help nonprofits go deep in the pro bono space. So we'd love to connect with you and other foundations in your community to make that possible as well. All right, so moving forward, which I know I can do. Thank you, Carolyn. Any questions?
Yes, there were a few that have come in, and I would encourage people, we have a few more minutes before the top of the hour, so if you have other questions, you can still type them in the bottom left corner of your screen. Well, one came in that you just answered, so I wanted to ask, what city is this Taproot in?
Yeah, I saw that coming, so I thought I would volunteer those 5 cities. And of course, if you want to know more, our website has a whole section on how to apply for a Taproot Foundation service grant. Actually,
that looks like that is a question I had from Daniel, talking about organizational funding opportunities with Taproot Foundation. So I would be looking at the information on your website about your service grants.
And just to be clear, we are a foundation without an endowment, so we raise what it takes to deliver the services we deliver to nonprofits every year. We don't write any financial grants. We deliver service grants. So we would love for you to take a look at Taproot if you're in one of our 5 cities. Unfortunately, to get a service grant where Taproot helps as an intermediary, you do have to be located within one of our 5 cities because that's where we have the infrastructure, where we've recruited hundreds of pro bono consultants, where we have program staff to manage the engagements and such. But the whole point of this presentation is really to help you to move forward in pro bono without the help of a Taproot or any other pro bono intermediary organization. So we hope that you'll explore how to do this on your own.
Well, that actually feeds into a question I have from Debbie, asking, what about what she's calling small market areas? So if you're not in a Taproot city and maybe not in a major metropolitan area.
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually had a fun experience once where we were talking to a foundation in a very small town in Texas. And the individual at the foundation said to me, there is no pro bono expertise in and around my town. There just isn't. We just don't have marketing and communications folks that could do this. And so I actually ran a LinkedIn search, and put in sort of marketing and communications, a certain number of years of experience with relatively substantial titles like strategist, VP, director, ran a search, and it turned out there were a few thousand people that qualified through through LinkedIn that sort of fit that bill of somebody who could actually deliver the kind of quality of services that we're talking about. So there's no, look, it's harder in a smaller town for sure, but with the tools online to scope out the right project and to leverage the existing both organizational and individual resources in and around your community, we really believe in the bottom of our heart that those resources are out there. They don't know that they want to do pro bono yet, but you're going to help them realize it.
All right, and actually I'm going to change the view to bring up a slide that has a link for you to do a feedback survey, and I'm going to bring it up on your screen as we continue with the questions, just watching the clock, and I know people may start to drift off, so we do want you to do complete the feedback survey. And I had a question, let's see. Oh, related to LinkedIn, Stacy had a question that she works with 100% volunteer organization. So she's a volunteer, and she has LinkedIn that she uses for her business, not for the organization. So she's wondering, would she need to set up a LinkedIn account for the organization to be able to tap into all of this?
To be able to tap into the resources, no. You can just do it directly through the Taproot Foundation website. Just follow the, go to Get Pro Bono, Pro Bono for Boards, click in through the LinkedIn network there, and you'll be into that specially built sort of user interface.
Right. So in terms of tapping in and using LinkedIn, it's your connections, whether you're making those connections through your work with the organization or your work in another role.
Absolutely right. Yep. It's anyone that you've been linked in, that you've chosen to link in with, as well as folks that are connected to them. So it's a pretty expansive network, it turns out, because it's not just folks you know, it's folks who you know somebody, so to speak. So it's, yeah.
Right, so definitely it would make sense if someone is a volunteer at an organization or on the board of an organization, you should definitely be connected to every other board member on
Absolutely.
LinkedIn, so you're able to see their connections and take full advantage of this.
Yep. Another option that if you're in the board recruitment phase and you're working to build your pro bono committee, frankly, as an executive director, I would lead them through this pro bono for boards training myself, and then I would send them with homework to sign online with their own LinkedIn password and go through this process, and frankly come back with a list of 10 prospects or suspects for the board to consider, because there's no reason why the executive director is doing this on their own. Leverage your board and their network to engage in this process as well.
And we have a couple people asking, does this work the same way, or if you're a social entrepreneur but you don't have a 501c3, you're set up as a for-profit, can you still get pro bono, or could you take advantage of Taproot's network or resources?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got this right, that we can't tell who you are when you sign under our website. You might be Bill Gates, or you might be a startup, a small nonprofit entrepreneur, social entrepreneur. We can't tell. So when you go onto the site and you start exploring it through the site, then you're going to get to the tools you need.
Okay, and in terms of each individual potential pro bono volunteer, it's up to them in terms of what their policy is. If they only work with 501c3s, I mean, that's going to be a case-by-case basis.
Yep, exactly right. Yep.
And Kelly has a question. Oh, very interesting question. You were talking about how nonprofits should act, acting as if you're a paying client. In your experience, how do you find that the people volunteering their services act? Yep. Are they as dedicated
who asked that question,
as
Kelly?
they were getting paid? Kelly Brady, yes.
Kelly, you're the best. That's a great question. We give the exact same message to the pro bono consultants that we get at the nonprofits. So we say to nonprofits, act like a paying client. The very clear message to our pro bono consultants at Taproot when they go through our orientation process is you must treat this like a paid engagement. And if you don't plan to, if you can't, if you don't have the bandwidth right now, if you don't have the time, no hard feelings. Thanks for signing up, but we're not going to put you on a project. because it is critical that both sides of the equation approach this like a paid engagement with the same level of priority and commitment to excellence they would any other engagement. So, frankly, it does nobody a service to not be frank about that at the beginning and have a real honest conversation with somebody you're talking to about the engagement and say, what level of priority will this get? What happens if things blow up at work? Will you still be committed to this scope and this timeline and delivering the commitment of excellence you would to any other project at work? If they say no, I'd say thanks, and I'd go looking for another resource, because pro bono really does require a deep commitment on the part of both parties to manage this in a timely way into the satisfaction of the client.
All right. Can you stay on for a couple more questions? I know
Sure.
we're at the hour.
Sure.
Kelly had a follow-up question then, wondering what are the main reasons and motivations people participate as pro bono volunteers?
Yeah.
And what do they what do they expect in return if they're not getting financial compensation?
Yeah, great question. I always say pro bono consultants get a wealth of compensation. It's just not money. But there's a great deal of compensation in fulfillment, in building a network if they're team-based engagements, of being challenged on a project in a way that maybe, for instance, a graphic designer who works on a furniture catalog and does the same thing day after day after day, and suddenly they're getting this new challenge, and they get to be creative, and they get to figure out what the deliverable needs to be, and they get to build something vastly different. They're developing their professional skill set. They're being challenged. They're adding things to their resume. But most importantly, in my view, it's the satisfaction of knowing that you have delivered something to the organization doing immense good in the community that could never achieve what needs to be achieved without your skill set coming in to bring that to the organization. So you just can't underestimate the power of that. And the last thing I want to say is it's the same as fundraising. You have to ask. It's amazing how oftentimes if you pitch a clearly scoped engagement to somebody that says, I need this is the deliverable, this is the time frame, it seems like you have the skills, do you and will you help us? How often people will say, I do and I will. People want to help, and this is a way to help without tapping into your wallet and your bank account and to deliver the thing that you're best at in the world.
And one more question from Christopher. He's wondering if there are currently any gaps in pro bono services or any areas where Taproot is trying to develop your network and partnerships.
It's a great question, Christopher. Thank you. Yeah, there definitely are gaps. I mean, the biggest challenge at Taproot, and you may experience this as you delve into the pro bono world independently, is in the technology space. We have a website service grant, and frankly, it is so hard to find an army of web developers who sign up to commit to, sitting in their basement a few weekends over the course of a month, coding a website out for a nonprofit. It's just a tough, they're busy. They maybe aren't, there's any number of reasons why. So we're constantly struggling, frankly, on the web developer, website development front. And in fact, if anyone on this call knows a good web developer who would be willing to sign up, we'd love for you to send them to our website to sign up as a pro bono consultant. So technology space is definitely an area of challenge. On the fundraising and development front, which a lot of you identified as a core need, I think pure fundraising skills are a little bit challenged to raise pro bono consulting for, because very few people in the business profession are professional fundraisers, right? They just don't correlate. But there's a lot you can do around the edges of fundraising and marketing and communications and social media and financial analysis, a whole range of places where it fits. But that sort of direct fundraising expert doing pro bono for nonprofits, that is candidly a little trickier in our experience too.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rob, for stepping in a pinch to cover for your colleague. And for the questions we didn't have time for, or if people have remaining questions that you haven't typed in, Rob, would you be receptive to people emailing you? Or?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Let me give my email address a couple times. And I'm very, very sincere when I say it would be enormously helpful for Taproot Foundation if some of you even take first and second steps based on some of this information and share your story with us. We're really trying to get a handle on how this is being implemented as we launch these new tools. So you would be my best friend if you'd shoot me an email and tell me your story. And my email address is racton, it's R-A-C-T-O-N, at taprootfoundation.org. So again,
And
it's
I actually just put that in the Q&A,
oh,
so
beautiful.
everyone should be able to see it over on the left-hand panel.
Yep. Please tell us your stories, and if you have any ongoing questions, don't hesitate to ask. We'll answer them. We'll point you to the resource if there's a resource available, and you know, in return, we just ask that you share your good stories.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for attending, and we apologize for the brief delay we had with the technical issues, but I think we end up just fine. I want to thank Rob and Taproot Foundation for sharing all this and making such great resources available. And have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.